Hey there. Happy Wednesday. It's hump day. And you know what? Hump day is the reason why we actually chose Wednesdays because we knew that you needed something to get over the hump. I am Coach Tukwasidian from the Evolving Woman. My desire as a part of the Evolving Woman platform is to help the modern woman transition through every season of her life. The Evolving Woman's Safe Space Conversations is one medium by which um, I'm working hard to bring that mission to life. There's also the Evolving Woman Facebook group, our private community, and of course, the Evolving Woman Summit that's held every year. And don't forget about the Evolving Woman magazine, okay? The mission is to showcase women as they evolve through every single season of their lives. Now, when people ask me the question who I am, I'm often stumped to answer that because in one side of my head, I'm thinking they want to know what I do professionally. But from the other side of my head, I'm more about my core values. So I'm just a woman on a mission who has rebuilt her life and is dedicated to helping other women do the exact same thing. I believe that we all hold the power within us to recreate ourselves as many times as necessary and to recreate our lives as many times as necessary as well. Hello, Stephanie. Thank you so much for joining us here today. And so I'm excited as always. You know, I always say I'm super excited to come and to share with women, men also, because by listening to these conversations, they also gain insight. Hey, Coach T, so nice to see you. About women and the things that we go through. And so tonight, my guest is Jacqueline Gardiner. And tonight, we're talking all about grief. Now, if you've ever experienced loss, and this doesn't have to be death, but if you have had a traumatic experience, if you've experienced loss, then you know what grieving is all about. So I'm going to invite Jackie to come and tell us a little bit about who she is and what she is all about. Hey, Jackie, thank you so much for agreeing to be a guest on the Evolving Woman Safe Space Conversations. Please tell our viewing audience all about who you are.
Well, thank you so much for having me. So I love how you introduce yourself because, like you, I wear many hats. If you're talking in terms of my personal, from a personal perspective, so I'd like to say that Jackie Gardner is a family lover. So I happen to be the third child and among six siblings. I have two sisters and three brothers. I have a mother and I have twin adult sons. So being a mother to well, they are adults, but being a mother, that's the thing I'm proudest about. Professionally, I wear also a lot of different hats. I am the underwriting manager, agents manager, and training manager at one of the leading professional insurance company. I am the co-host on a show called Transforming Lives. So want to say shout out to the one and only Mr. David Williams, my host. And I am president of a mentoring ministry, MG International Ministry. Beyond that, I'm just someone very passionate about service. I love God, so I'm a believer, and I love people.
Awesome. Thank you. That was a very thorough introduction. Okay. We got to know you personally, we got to know you professionally. And you know, Jackie, the very first time I met you many years ago, maybe 8 or 9, sometimes my sense of time is a bit off, it just flies by. But from the very first time I met you, one of the things that I recognized was your heart of service. So I want to thank you for being the type of woman who is always looking to support others, to give back through your mentoring ministry as well, and for making strides in your professional career. So I'm hearing that you grew up in a large family.
Yes.
Oh, yes, I envy that. Now, I grew up in a large family, but I grew up with an extended larger family. My mom had
Mm.
2 kids, it was just me and my brother. And then, of course, the extended family. So the warmth and the happiness, the arguments and the disagreements, everything that encompasses having a big party, a big family, I've been privy to. What
Oh,
was
okay.
it like growing up in such a large family?
Well, it was amazing from this perspective. We played games from morning to night. So lots of games. We worshiped together. We went to church together. So we enjoyed worship, being in the choir, going out together. We have also seven cousins. So first cousins, and we were really, really close. So it was a family like of 13. So it was always, so we did have our arguments and we had our fights, but we made up very quickly because there were games to be played. There was lots of fun. So I really enjoyed being a part of a big family.
So you were like of the era where our grandparents told us we had enough siblings and we had enough cousins that we
Absolutely.
didn't need friends, right? That's one of the things
Absolutely.
that I remember. Now, if you're watching the show, let us know in the comments if you grew up in a large family, family of three, family of four. Let us know exactly what your family background. I'd love to know if you grew up in a large extended family or if you grew up in a smaller family and what that was like for you. So share that with us so that we can all share, join in this conversation. So, Jackie, of all of your siblings, I've always heard you talk about your best friend. How did you and your sister develop such a close relationship?
Okay, so that's a very good question. So she's my baby sister, right? So naturally, I feel responsible for her because she's the baby. But beyond that, I'm close to both of my sisters actually. But this particular sister was a leader in my mentoring group. So we work side by side. She was a leader also in another group, Kids Connection, which is a subsection, sub part of MG Rebirth International Ministry. Beyond that, my sister and I, we walk together every single day. So imagine that every single day I get off, I rush and we go walking and we share stories. And she just is a lovely, anyone who knows my sister will tell you she is quiet, but she is, oh, I see someone saying the youngest of 10, but she's just really a lovely person, a God-fearing person, and we are both worshipers. So we love to worship. So we shared lots of things in common.
Awesome. Tara, you must have been really spoiled being the youngest of 10, Coach T. And Stephanie, I'm saying Stephanie said she was the only child for 15 years.
Wow.
So, Jackie, it sounds like you guys just formed this bond. As I read your stories and as I listen to you share about your sister, sometimes I wonder if you guys were twins because of how close you and your sister had become. You did almost everything together.
Yes.
Now,
And we went to school together. So,
okay,
yeah.
okay. So tell us then, Jackie, how did you feel when your sister first became ill, when she was sick? How did that impact you?
Now that's an interesting question because my sister was not actually sick, right? So what happened was, so my sister was a health buff. She exercised twice a day. She fell. So this was supposed to be a simple fall. We went to the doctor. They did the X-ray. They said nothing was broken. They put bandage on her leg, give her some medication for pain, and that was supposed to be it. So she never was ill in bed per se. The only time she spent in bed was after, like I said, she had a second fall. So she had the first fall. We went to the doctor, we got the medication and everything. And I remember vividly that night. The doctor gave her the medication, and I just didn't want to leave her house, right? So I was there saying to her, I think I'm going to sleep at your house tonight to just to make sure you stay in this bed and everything is fine. And she was like, no, you've been with me the entire weekend, because really that particular weekend was we went to our aunt's funeral. And she wanted me to go with her to entertain family that came down for this funeral. So I really had spent a lot of time with her. So she was like, no, man, I'll be able to take care of myself. You could leave. And so I just found out the next morning, apparently, now we're not even certain how it happened. She went to the bathroom and she had her second fall in the bathroom. And so from there, I remember getting that call from work saying, Daphne fell. So I'm like, what do you mean she fell? So like, yeah, she fell out the bed. She's in the bathroom. We're not sure she's conscious. You need to come home. So I tend to be the middle child and the one that people call on to come and do that rescue kind of thing. So I remember driving home very quickly, rapidly, like I gotta go. And I arrived home, and she we had to call the ambulance because she wasn't conscious, and we called the ambulance, and they took her. I was the one going in the ambulance once again with her, and I remember saying to her when we were in the ambulance, and I don't know if they just didn't want me to panic, so I was calling her name like Daphne, Daphne, and she just didn't seem to be able to find me. She heard my voice. So I said to her, "This is your bestie," so I'm making joke with her, thinking like, not thinking it was anything serious, because they said to me, no, she could hear your name. She's okay. Just calm down. So that's how, and from there, she went to the hospital. She got admitted to the hospital, and oh my niece is crying. Hold 1 second, I didn't expect
Okay.
it.
All right.
Cooks.
So you guys, I just want to give her a moment because if you have had a close family member who you loved very dearly pass away in almost unexpected and sudden way, then you would definitely understand the difficulty in sharing the story and understanding that her support system is there. Please just give them some love in the comments. Let them know that they're not alone. Let's let her see that we're supporting her. It's her first time sharing this story so publicly. So let's give her some support.
All right, we're
Okay.
back. So thank you. So actually, that was my niece, having a little, I guess, hearing the story. She's 10, and she was extremely close to my sister. And so I was just telling her amazingly as I prepare for this interview that, hey, once this is over, we're going to spend some time talking about Annie Daphne and doing some activities so she can get some of that grief out of her, because she's been almost like an adult, like a child trying to keep it together for everybody. And so I noticed that. So she's now having her relief. I noticed that she was gearing towards that. So she's okay. Once I'm off, I will be
Okay.
able to. Yeah. So like I said, so the ambulance took her to the hospital. And so from there, I was visiting, but of course you had nurses, and doctors attending to her. She wasn't conscious. Well, they say she could hear us, but she couldn't communicate. But I never had to be alone in terms of taking care of her. The person I had to take care of as a result of her being removed from the home and going, admitted to the hospital, was my mother. My mother was then the person, because my sister lived with my mother. So that's where I had to step in and offer support for my mother. So I am grieving. I'm trying to visit the hospital and give my sister support there, praying. And then I'm also trying to navigate at home the emotions of my mom. And my mother was really, really close to my sister. She's close to myself. She's close to me also. But, my sister lived at home. My sister never left home. So she was extremely close to her.
Isn't it amazing though that grief strikes us in so many different ways, right? It's like you know you're living life and everything is good, and then something just suddenly happens that it's just unthinkable, and it takes me back to that day when I got the call to say, hey, you got to come now, your mom is ill. And then 2 days later, my mom had transitioned. And so it's just heartbreaking to we all know that at some point, like, everyone has to die. And even though we know that, like, death is not something that we want to happen, to ourselves nor to our loved ones. And so I'm saying a lot in because I'm a little emotional right now. I'm so sorry
But
about that.
you join in with my niece.
Yes, yeah, she touched me,
Yeah,
and it
I can
really
see
made
that.
me think about when I was 13 and my great grandmother died, and nobody understood the amount of grief that you struggle with as a child. No one really sits down and talks. So I love hearing you say that you're going to sit and talk with her. Nobody really pays attention to the fact that little children experience the void as well. And we have to help them learn how to navigate life without someone who may have been a favorite aunt, or someone that may have been a favorite sister, or even, their mom. So It's just, yeah. And so your sister unexpectedly had a fall. She had a second fall. You guys were headed to the emergency room. Was there any point during that time did you consider that your sister might transition?
Absolutely not. Absolutely. From my perspective, she was going to go into the hospital. They're going to give her treatment because, like I said, I think when the persons in the ambulance saw me sort of panicking, like, why she can't see me? I'm talking to her. They tried to assure me that she was all right so I don't get all upset. So at no time did I expect her to transition until probably several couple days afterwards. She was evaluated by the doctors, and then the news, like her predicament, it was like grim. But however, I'm a believer, so this is where the challenge came in. So as a believer, so I am praying every step of the way. And if anyone know, I'm Adventist with a Church of God background, so that them two coming together. So I am praying, I am confessing, I am believing God that she is going to, because my sister is such an avid worshiper. So from that basis, and she is so strategic to her church, her girls club. So in my mind, I'm thinking God has every reason for her to remain on earth to finish her work. So there's no way He's gonna allow her to pass. And I had reached this point, a similar point with my son. You might have been aware, heard a little bit about the story of my son when he was 22. The doctors gave him a death diagnosis, a really, really grim diagnosis. And so I had entered a time of praying and fasting and, believing God. And miraculously, my son is still with me. He's a lawyer today. So I felt like that's the same thing. God had honored my prayer, and that it would have been the very same thing with my sister, that she would still be with me now.
Wow. That's that's amazing. That God responded to your your cries. He responded to your prayerful, request to save your son's life. And Stephanie is saying, bless the Lord. So in the instance of an innocent child being just being born, he responded and granted your wish. And it's, the ways of God are so complex. We just have no idea
Yes,
or understanding of the complexity, that is God. And so in one instance
yes.
he granted your request, and in another instance, it was a different result, and your sister passed away. How are you managing the grief?
Okay, so that's a loaded question again, right? So, first of all, I would say I wasn't managing at all. Um, so while I have the opportunity, we ended up with a situation of a false alarm. I got a call that my sister had transitioned actually even before she did. And I got that call at work, totally not expecting to receive such a call. And I could tell you, you think you know about grieving, you think you might know how you would respond when you receive such a call. But I could tell your viewers that sometimes most often you have no idea how you would respond, because we do not actually prepare we don't talk about death and dying in such a way to say, what steps you need to take in the event A happens or B happens. So in my case, that has never happened before, where I got a call to say that your sister was dead. My bestie is dead. I kid you not. I was at work, like I said. I'm a manager in charge of many persons. And on your job, that is the least likely place that you would want to have such a call. And so I tried my best to maintain composure, to just try to make it to the parking lot. But I kid you not, I cannot tell you what happened to me, and I cannot tell you how I got to the parking lot. But all I can hear is a crowd of persons following me to the parking lot. So I'm trying to so somewhere along the line, I must have started screaming. And they knew that that was totally out of character. And I could hear people saying, oh my God, it's Miss Gardner, it's Miss Gardner. And they're running behind me, and I'm trying just to make my way to the parking lot and to my car to escape. That's where I was trying to escape, to get home to see whether this information was correct about my sister. Needless to say, I just, my body went into shock. And I did, I guess, what I know naturally to do, which meant I started my Church of God, calling on the name of the Lord. And I remember me saying, and just trying to gain my composure as I said, like, the blood, the blood, the blood. So I'm at my job. So you imagine this now. I'm at my job. I'm the blood, the word. They do not know that part of me, because on my job, like I said, it's a whole different Jackie, but I lost all consciousness. And it was the word, the blood. I started to sweat. I've never seen, I naturally sweat, but when I'm talking about sweat where it's puddle of water in your shoes and you cannot keep your shoes on your feet, like my body just took, just, I mean, it took on a character of its own. I took up it, it took me to a place that I never ever want to go again. Right. So I, like I said, and I'm trying to reach to my car to drive because I want to drive away because I can hear the crowd around me. I said they just got me in time as I sat in my car. I am so nervous that I cannot even start the car. I started trembling, just like that, trying to find where the, like just like I couldn't even figure out how to start my car. Anyway, that went on. So if someone saying, my God, it was horrible. I remember as they talked to me and they tried to calm me down, I could hear them saying, get her water, get her this, get her that. And they're talking to me. And I can't explain to them because at that point they still didn't know what had happened. I can't even verbalize that my sister has passed because in my mind, if I said those words, it meant that it was a reality that my sister had passed and she's no longer gonna be with me. So I'm like, my sister, my sister, my sister, my sister. They're like, your sister what? Finally, after just to jump the story, just to jump past a lot of what had happened, I was able to make out that my sister had passed. But in that process, I guess when they looked at me, because I started just to circle, because after they said you can't drive, they took the keys and they're like, no, we cannot allow you to drive. And I hear them saying, hey, we need to call our family. And I definitely, my family, I didn't want my family to meet me in that state because in my mind, they were already dealing with a lot with my sister being in the hospital. I didn't want to add to that burden. That's what my mind was saying was like, oh no, absolutely. I can't let my thing. So I'm like, no, just allow me to calm down. So I continue with the word, the blood, and praying and everything until they eventually had to actually call the ambulance for me. So you imagine. And I'm looking at, I'm like, oh, I can see my president in the midst. I'm like, oh, this is bad. This is really, really bad. So we moved past that. I was able to, kept praying. Was able to calm myself down. And when the ambulance came, I convinced them. They made me sign off a course to say that I refused to go. And then they called my brother. My brother did come for me. I was like, I'm not leaving this job in no ambulance. That's not going to be the story. And so my brother came and they took me and they didn't know at that point why I carried on like that. They had no idea. They thought that I was just upset that my sister was in the hospital. They did not receive the information that my sister had passed. So they took me for a ride and they were like, so this is now my son and my brother. And they were like, what happened? We know you're sad. We know you're close. So I'm like, you guys don't know what happened? They're like, no, what happened? She's sick. She's in the hospital and all that. I'm like, she passed. So they're like, she passed. So of course, now everything in them drum. They're like, hold on. So at that point, they took me to my son took me to the doctor. Even though I didn't go with in the ambulance, he took me to the doctor, to a private doctor to check me out, which was a good thing because my blood pressure had elevated so much, and they were like, you are lucky she did not have a stroke. So very
Wow.
quickly, I'm kidding you. That's how much. So you have to be so careful when you give people that kind of
Yeah.
news and where you're given that kind of news.
Yeah.
And so the long and the short was at that time, I was not doing really, really, I was doing unwell. But with time, I started to try to figure out ways of coping once she passed. How do I deal with this grief? And they said that grief really is love with nowhere to go. So
Mhm.
I have this bunch of love for my sister, and I'm used to transferring this by our walks and our talk and our conversation, there is just no place for this love to go. And so, hence, I started. So, you might have seen my post on Facebook. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't, I needed some way to express my love. And hence, it started my posting my love letter to her on Facebook, where I'm telling her how I feel. And for me, now for some people that did well, because as a result of me posting on Facebook, I got an inundation of letters and feedback. But there were some people that did not, they were disturbed. Some people felt like I was going crazy by the posting every morning. They were very uncomfortable and they would reach out like, oh, I mean, like they just, like, I guess reading it just reminded them, I guess, of their own situation, or, or they just wanted me because I'm known to be this bubbly person. So I think I felt for some persons, they wanted me to hurry up. Whatever you're going through, we're uncomfortable with you. That's not the Jackie we know. Push past it, and jump over the grief, and then just come back to the scene, be the Jackie who can work them 101 hours.
But
you
you'll
know
never be the same.
how do you know? I
Oh,
am
amen.
permanently changed
Yes.
as a result of that experience, and people
Absolutely.
wouldn't believe it. It is I call it a plucking away of you. That's what it did for me. Everything that I thought that I knew came into question. I started questioning everything: my
Mhm.
relationship with God, my relationship with people, my relationship with my job, every single thing. I started to question and evaluate. And I'm still, mind you, as I have come to the point where I started journaling to get rid of some of that. That was
Great.
some of the ways. I started to understand and recognize the fact that there will be some people who will never be comfortable with grief. So my first responsibility is to protect and secure me. So I
Absolutely.
try to, right. So I try to, appreciate and understand that not everybody could take the grief conversation. So for those who would listen, and I want to say to your viewers out there, the number one thing, the number one gift you can give to somebody who is grieving is to allow them to talk about the person who telling them not to talk about it is to say erase that person. That
Correct.
is actually the most hurtful thing you can say to that person, because they want to hold on to every single memory they have of that
Yeah.
person. So
Yeah.
just allow them to talk. So that's one of the things I find people like you. And so thank you so much when you reached out, and I was saying to you some of my frustration, because I could tell you when you're grieving, people do not know what to say, and they
Mm.
could really say some things that could, especially sometimes, especially sometimes, especially, I mean, the believers, as believers, I mean, we could say things, and I want to say this to the believers: that is not the time to tell the person who is truly grieving, because that's a heart, your heart is broken. That ain't
I'm
the time to take out the Bible and quote the scriptures and just
I'm
get a grief.
laughing, right? I'm laughing, Jackie, because it tested my faith in so many ways. When people told me things like she's in a better place, or when they told me things like, um, it's been 3 months now, are you gonna, and it took every bit of self-discipline for me to not attack, right? Because like you shared, it's a process. And while you were talking, there were some things that came to mind. Is like, I didn't understand grief the way I understand it now until I lost my mom. Like, yes, my great grandmother, I was 13, I spiraled, I acted out. Everybody know the story where, life just went crazy. I didn't process that, right? But when my mom died, I understood what it truly means to lose someone that you love.
Love.
As we were preparing, like I was okay, the night before the funeral, homegirl show up in the room, sit on the end of the bed. Don't go in that church tomorrow and act like a fool. She came to me and that's what she said. But when we got to the graveyard, it was like a different story, because how do you now deposit somebody in this graveyard and leave them there? So the minute we got to the graveyard door, Jackie, I started screaming and wailing, like this sound felt like it was coming from my
Someone
bowels,
else,
from my
someone
mouth.
else.
Yes, that's how deep it was coming from. So I think that perhaps people don't understand grief until they experience the loss and the unexpected loss of
But
somebody
that's
that they love. And maybe that's why some people were so uncomfortable with it because they've not been through it. You know the statement, he who feels it knows it.
knows it
So
absolutely.
that's what allows me to give grace, right?
No,
That
I
you know
totally
what?
get.
Yeah, they have just not had that type of experience. Because how do you go from the week before having such a wonderful time with your best friend, who was your sister, to then just a short while later having to now, bury her and then move forward with your life with this void, right? So
It,
yes, it's really difficult.
it is. It is. It's beyond difficult because, like I said, in the meantime, we have my mother, right? So you're grieving from so many different perspective. It's not just so you have your mother; she's grieving. Your siblings are grieving. It's grief all around. And you have all these bunch of decisions to be made, and your brain is just scrambled. So the most basic thing is hard, right? And what I was not prepared for, and nobody really, I don't know if you can explain it, was the depression. I didn't expect, oh my God, for people who suffer with depression, depression is that weight sits on you, and no matter how hard I try to move, because I know that that's not where I want to be. I don't have all the scriptures. I know all that. I know where God have good plans for my life. And even if that happen, I know that God is able. I know all of that. And that's why I tell people as believers, but the pain is in your heart.
Yes,
That's where the pain is. It's
yes,
emotional. You're
yes,
trying to give me intellectual stuff that I know intellectually. How do I move that from here down here? I
yes,
don't know. And I don't want, and
absolutely.
people want you to lie.
Yes,
I said to them like, okay, you're asking me how am I doing? Do you really want to know the answer to that question? Or you are, because some people ask you that and before you could answer, they then asking you about the birds and the tree and they move on
yes,
to, they don't really want to know.
yes,
They know they should ask you that question,
yes,
but they
yes.
really don't want that to be. Mm-mm.
And
So
logic is so different from emotional, right? Because logically you understand the process of death, you understand that you know what, we don't come for forever, but emotionally you know that you don't want this person to leave, you don't want to carry with life. You find it difficult to do the everyday things, particularly the things that you used to do together. So the drive to eat, the drive to bathe. Listen,
exercise every day. Every day we
Jackie,
exercise.
I'm
We have
telling
worship.
you. So
Worship every.
how do you feel like there's no way to fill the void, right? I'm gonna just tell you, like, for me, it was really difficult to take a bath. Like literally, my husband, my best friends, they were like bathing me. I lost the desire to eat, to bathe.
Okay.
I lost the desire. I would maybe was in this house for 5 days. Um, and then a sister, one of my sister friends, Janelle, she just kind of threw cold water on me and said, "Girl, you got to get your life together." But like, you lose it. You lose it, and that's what I saw you experiencing on Facebook. Now, how do I move forward? And people believe that we need the most support at the time of death or at the funeral. When would you say uh, you need the support most?
You need the support after it's all done. I mean, you have an inundation of people in the house. And like I said, at that particular time, you don't even have a real consciousness of what's going on. So once you start to gain some semblance of sanity, you start now. Because I am still, I can tell you right now, I'm sitting here and I'm not a totally sane person. I might as well tell you. It's still a process. I have to be very intentional every day I wake up. Jackie, you will bless the name of the Lord. That's how I have to tell myself, I command you to bless the name. I command you to pray because in and of myself, I don't naturally want to pray. You know, even in terms of like, I still write letters to my sisters. I still do that. I wear all my sister clothing. All. I am most comfortable when I wear her clothing. I sleep in her room, sleep in her bed, put on a. It's like when I do those things, I'm closer to her. She, like I said, she was very active in her girls' club. I make sure I became involved with that, and with the girl. They just recently had. So just to tell you how I'm not done with my grieving, right? So they had a tea party for her because she was so loved that a lot of persons wanted to do stuff at her funeral, make tributes, give some, make a contribution at the funeral. But unfortunately, only so many persons you can accommodate on the schedule. So program. So they decided to have this tea party just Saturday past. And so maybe that's why my niece is still really tearful, right? So I'm saying to myself, when they first came to me, I'm like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. But they were like, these people really, really want to celebrate it. She means so much to so many people and everything like that. So this may okay, we'll come. So I went. So I had already spoken to myself, told myself, now Jackie, you don't do that at the graveyard. You don't do that. You don't pass that. You had your time at the graveyard. You had your time at the church. You had your time at your work. You good. You should be proud. You crying home every night. You should be good. There is. So I honestly, no, to question, I honestly, when they haven't given myself a good lecture
Oh
as to
my.
how you will behave, I was good, until they decide to show a videotape of all these different places she's been and in the church and all these contribution. I don't even know when I started screaming. I have no idea. They had to like, okay, and I feel so bad. Like they got to stop the program. Let's stop the program to give Jackie a few minutes. We knew that this was going to be hard, but we didn't expect it to be this hard. Give her a couple. And I'm talking to myself as I hear myself. I don't know if you ever talk to yourself and you hear yourself scream like, Jackie, that's ridiculous. Calm down. And I literally have to talk myself until I reach the point. You need to see the pictures. I mean, I'm frowning. I'm trying to smile because they're making these presentation for my sister. I'm like, I mean, that's just how to put you because I'm trying to get all this cry out of me so that I can be normal. So, like I said, the grieving goes on, but I'm sure the good thing. So, a forum like this helps me because it allows me to talk about my sister and it allows me to get that message out. And that's my goal on being here. It's not so much just even to talk about my sister, it is to help that man, that woman that would need this information tomorrow to understand that death happens to it's the inevitable, and that as much information that you can learn now before you go through that process, even though, mind you, there will still be some things that you have to learn. Information is power. So I'm
Yeah.
here to give power away.
That's what I'm talking about. Because we need people to know we're not crazy, first and foremost, right? Now, grief will cause us to do some crazy things.
Crazy.
And
Yes.
but the thing is, Jackie, like we could be anywhere and it could be a scent. It could be a favorite food. It could be anything that will carry us back to the memory of our loved ones. And it could be years. And we break down. So I love that what you're saying is a part of your mandate is to help other women understand that they're not crazy, that grief is a process. You never, Paulette is saying you can never prepare because I mean, even when you prepare, you may have like, okay, this is gonna happen, but the logic, again, we go back to the head, the logic, but when it actually happens, it's gonna be a heart response. It's gonna be an emotional response, right? I
De-
mean, like
Definitely.
the day we took mom in the ambulance and my aunts came, I knew as they took her out of the ambulance, I knew. And the next day when I left the hotel, I knew 100% that that would be the last time I saw my mother alive.
Wow.
I
Wow.
watched her decline in that period of time. And no matter what the doctors were saying, you're right. They try to keep you hopeful. But regardless of what the doctors were saying, I knew that that Wednesday when I left that hospital, that would be the last time that I saw my mother alive. But when they called at 2:03 or 2:08 a.m.,
Something
I
else. That's something else.
immediately start screaming this house down. I didn't answer the phone, you know. I didn't answer the phone. I start screaming because I knew what the call was. And
Mm.
so it's important that people understand grief is a process and we're not crazy, right? When you love someone and they leave
I
you,
love
like,
you repeat the fact that you're repeating that. I
yes,
love
like
that you're
Tara
not
is
crazy because
saying,
that's
like,
that's a
only
big one
time helped her.
question.
Yes, it's love. Like, only time helped her, you know? And as it is with all of us, earlier this year, January, I found my brother dead in his house. Unexpectedly, we had a strained relationship for many reasons. And I experienced grief today. Like, I kept his wedding band. And I was telling my best friend who gives me this safe space to share that I experienced a lot of grief because I couldn't help him.
Mm.
I couldn't
Mm.
help him.
Yep.
And so
Right.
he's
Right.
gone. And I'm experiencing grief. I'm a life coach. And I couldn't help my brother. But you can only help people
Well,
who want to receive
I
that
just was
help,
gonna say,
right? And so,
help is a two-way process.
correct.
Help is,
So it
yes.
don't, even though we had a strained relationship the last like 3 years, I loved my brother. And so when he passed away, when the police officers, went in the house and they started, the police officer gagged. I knew he was in there. I knew he was there, and I started screaming and hollering outside, outside the house. So
No,
love,
it's
love. When you love
boy.
someone,
So, yeah, I with you. And I mean, you talk something really, really important because another thing, and this is regardless of your relationship with the individual, you have this feeling of guilt, that hey, and my sons was like, mommy, what more could you have done for that sister would
yeah,
you love so dearly? You all
yeah,
went on cruises together, you all walked together, you took, but in my mind, as her bestie, there, I could have stopped her from dying. Even though some, mind you, logically you put that on paper. I took her to the doctor, I went in the ambulance, I did all this kind of thing. But in my heart, it's like you still feel like there must have been something else I could have done. That's what your heart's saying. Logically, you put it on paper, you don't know what else it is, but in
yeah,
your heart, so that guilt. So you imagine you have. I tell people, grief is a very toxic, layered, heavyweight kind of emotion. In there is resentment, right? There's some resentment. In there is anger, deep anger. In there is regret, and there is guilt.
talk it.
So you imagine all the, and these are powerful emotions that could take you under. All of them coming together one at one time. So
Yes,
it's a really, really debilitating, overwhelming. You could find some other adjectives to throw inside
yeah,
there, kind of emotions coming back at you at a time when, like I said, you were required to very quickly, once that body's in the ground. See, they're with you, people are with you until you put that body in the ground. They think like once you put that body in the ground, like you leave all that crying and grieving right there, and you move on. I'll tell you very quickly one experience that happened to me, just so persons who can listen can really feel this. I remember after the funeral and returning to work and trying to get very quick, I mean, a bunch of work all around me to get into. And not, I mean, I'm fighting myself because at this particular time, what I want to do is lay down in my bed, pull the pillow over my head, and that's it. Sleep like my sister's sleeping almost, kind of thing. But anyway, you're getting into it. You still have your sons and you have other people depending on you. And I remember getting this call at work, and the person said to me, Jackie, she said, I got a call from someone and they said, they upset with you, right? So I said, upset with me? She said, yeah, she said, they attended your sister's funeral and they told me that they came right up to you and they hailed you and you did not hail them back. So you look right at them. I kid you not. So you look right at them and didn't even say anything. I said, me? She said, yes. She said, the person said they came right up close to you. And I'm like, sweetie, I can't tell you. I kid you not. I had a best friend from school that attended my sister's funeral. And she came to me and she said to me, she said, Jackie, I don't ever want to see you in that state again. She said, I
Wow.
was broken over the way that you were grieving. I've never seen you are such a bubbling person to see you like. So I look at her. I said, you were to my sister's funeral? She said,
But
yes, Jackie, I
how do
spoke
they
to you.
expect you to remember? Like you don't even know what's going on.
She said, you spoke to me. She said, as a matter of fact, I held your hand and we sang
Wow.
side by side by your sister graveyard. I had no idea that she was like, you don't have no idea. You have no consciousness of what's
Yeah.
going on around you. So I
Yeah.
just share that for those persons who are there who think like, okay, oh, I saw the family didn't recognize me, or the family forgot my name off the list, and all the crazy things we go to, they didn't give me recognition. You have no consciousness. So please, please go back and forgive your family that forgot your name off the obituary or didn't honor you or respect you. Please forgive them because they have no consciousness. So I
Absolutely.
wanted to
I
say
know.
that.
It is so much to talk about, but I know we do have to
Yes.
wrap this conversation
Yeah,
up,
I know
Jackie.
you do.
So that's a really valid point. Like this, I'm I just want to be tender in how I say this because I know old school. Everybody, when somebody died, would go to that person's house, they would hang out. Today, when here in the Caribbean, I don't know what it's like in other parts of the world. Um, you know, you come like what I experienced was they came to pay their respects, but they wanted you to comfort them. They wanted you
Yes.
to serve them. Would you like something to drink? Would you like something to
Yes.
eat? No, dude, I am in pain. Right? Like that is insane to me. Like if you want to come and express your sympathies, come with something. How about you come with some food for the family? How about you come with some drinks for the family, right? I mean,
Yes.
we were going crazy, getting water, getting soda, making sure food was there before people started to come. That's an extra level of stress that the family doesn't need.
Um,
Secondly, secondly, um, at the
know what
actual
time to
event,
leave. How about that? Know
huh?
what time to leave. Know what
Yes,
time to
of course,
leave.
yes, right.
Quiet.
That this process that we go through, I think it makes the entire mourning process even more difficult, right? So first of all, be more considerate for the family, right? They shouldn't have to be concerned about you. They lost someone important to them, right? Secondly, I would also recommend that when you come to visit, don't come empty-handed, right? Come and think, how can I support this family? That may mean that you come and you sit down and you give that person a safe space to talk. Don't expect them to entertain you. It may mean that you come with some water because you know some other people come in that they have to give water to. Just show your general thoughtfulness. So Paulette is saying that she met and worked with your sister almost 30 years ago, and she was a wonderful person.
Wow.
And that watching someone you care about grieve so deeply also breaks your heart. So the people that love us, that watch us, they are also feeling the pain. So Jackie, as we wrap up, is there any advice that you would like to give to someone who may be navigating grief at this particular moment that you believe may help them?
Definitely. The big rock advice is I'd like to say grief is a process, like was said previously. Give yourself time. Do not rush it. Do not rush it. Be kind to yourself. That's something, and I'm speaking to myself when I say that. Be kind to yourself. If ever a time you need to be kind to you is when you are grieving. Try to take care of yourself. Self-care is most important. Find time to exercise, and to release some of that pent up anxiety. And understand, I people like to say stop crying. Cry if you must. Crying is actually a relief. It's a release. It replenishes the body. So cry. You don't have to cry in front of anyone. Cry, do the crying, get over it, and then try to move on to do something else. But don't skip the crying. Yeah, do your crying, squeeze yourself dry, and then get on to I'm giving you advice from things that has worked for me. And I realized that the process is unique for each individual. So take what will work for you and then try to introduce other positive things. Like I said, it's a hard experience. So you need to find things that would feed your heart. It's a difficult journey. You know that what feeds you emotionally. So you go to your closet and pull out the things that positively, now not negatively, positively feed you. And I said crying because as we see tears as negative, but if it replenishes you, then it's positive. So that's my big walk advice.
Awesome. Awesome. Paulette is saying that you wish you peace along this difficult
Thank
journey.
you.
Jackie,
Thank
you
you.
have been a fabulous guest. Just stand by for me, please. So Tara's written them down. Be kind to yourself. Listen, Coach C, I love when you're around, girl. You just make sure everybody get the nugget. I love that type of sisterhood. Be kind to yourself. To self-care. It's okay to cry. Introduce things to feed your heart positively. Guys, if you're listening and you don't know Coach T, you want to connect with her. She also has a podcast for leaders. So some very influential and I would say forward thinking people sit in our community, connect with them and learn and share and network. And so, Jackie, just stand by for me, please, as I close this out. And so, guys, thank you so much for being here in this conversation. Grief is a process more than anything. Understand that what you feel is okay. Understand that the process of learning how to carry the heaviness of not having your loved one with you can take time. It can take 3 months for some people, it can take years for other people. Whatever your journey, be okay with that. Beyond that, though, I want to encourage you when you love somebody, I want to encourage you to make sure that you live every day in love. Life happens so quickly and it's fleeting. We see people today and we may not see them tonight. We see people in this moment, and 10 minutes from now, we may never get the opportunity to see those people again. So, when you truly love someone, don't sweat the small things. When you truly love someone, be considerate, be compassionate, be understanding. When you truly love someone, be forgiving because we are all imperfect beings and we will get on each other's nerves. There will be times when we have regrets about our actions. There may be times when somebody hurt us. But in those moments when we feel hurt, also understand that we are human beings who have also hurt other people. And when the relationship is valuable to you, you want to make sure that you handle that relationship and that moment as if you will not have another opportunity. We show love, and that's the best that we can give to each other and to our neighbors. And so, when the people that we love pass away, we can stand firm where we know that we have done everything we can to support, to love, to nurture, and to build those relationships. And that we can grieve in peace, understanding that the richness that we gave each other in life are long memories that will rest in our hearts. And as you grieve tonight, I want to encourage you to pull out those memories. Don't bury your loved one totally. You may deposit them in the graveyard, but I want to encourage you to keep their memory alive. Find a tradition that you can use to honor your loved person. One of the traditions that I started when my mom passed away was by supporting an entrepreneur every Christmas, someone in our family who has a business by seeding into their business or buying supplies for their business in my mother's name. And so, what traditions can you create to honor your loved one? When you have your family dinner, talk about that person, reminisce about that person, enjoy the conversations and the laughter and the memories so that you can also keep their legacy going. Thank you for tuning in to the Evolving Woman Safe Space Conversations. Thank you for your contributions tonight, all of your comments. If you're catching this on the replay, thank you for tuning in. And know that you never have to walk alone. The Evolving Woman platform is designed to support the modern woman through every season of her life. Beyond anything, don't grieve in isolation. Hook up to a support network and be supported through your journey. God bless you all. Take care and good night.